What if one small decision could change your entire life? What if a boy with nothing, no money, no talent, no support, refused to give up on his dream? This is not just another story. This is a journey, a story of hope, struggle, and victory. So sit back, take a deep breath, and listen carefully. Because this story might just remind you that no matter where you are right now, your dream is still possible. This is The Boy Who Never Gave Up, a story for everyone who's learning English and learning life. Once upon a time, in a quiet village surrounded by green hills, there lived a boy named Sam. Sam wasn't rich. He didn't have new clothes or fancy books, but he had something rare, a dream burning inside his heart. Every night, he looked at the stars and whispered, "One day, I'll do something great. One day, people will remember my name." But dreams are not always easy to chase. When Sam talked about his dream, people laughed. His classmates said, "You? You can't even read properly." Even his teachers smiled sadly and said, "Sam, maybe you should aim for something simpler." But Sam never stopped believing. He didn't have much, but he had courage. He believed that if he kept trying, one day the world would see what he was made of. Every morning, Sam walked 5 miles to school, sometimes barefoot, sometimes hungry, but always with a smile. He carried an old torn bag and a broken pencil, but his spirit was unbroken. He listened carefully in class, even when others were not paying attention. He tried to read every word, even when the letters danced before his eyes. One day, the teacher gave a big reading test. The words were long and difficult. The other students finished quickly, but Sam was still on the first page, moving his lips slowly, whispering each word. The classroom filled with whispers and giggles. "Look at Sam," someone said. "He can't even finish the first paragraph." Sam heard it all, but he didn't stop. He kept reading, line by line, word by word. He knew that every small step forward was still a step. When the results came out, Sam was last in the class. But instead of feeling broken, he smiled, because he knew failure wasn't the end, it was just the beginning. He went home that day, sat beside his small window, and opened his book again. The words still looked difficult, but he told himself, "If I can read 1 page today, I can read 2 tomorrow." And he did. Every night before bed, he practiced reading aloud. Sometimes he made mistakes. Sometimes he stuttered. But every single night, he kept going. His mother watched him from the doorway and asked softly, "Sam, aren't you tired?" And Sam said, "Yes, I am, but I'm not giving up." Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, and still Sam kept practicing. He didn't care what people thought. He didn't care how slow his progress was. He just cared that he was moving forward, little by little, step by step. Every morning, before the sun came up, Sam would open his book and read aloud. The sound of his voice filled the small room. Sometimes his words were shaky, but his heart was strong. He listened to English songs on the old radio. He repeated the lyrics again and again, until the words felt natural on his tongue. He used every sound, every rhythm, as a part of his reading and listening practice. That was how he learned, not just with his eyes, but with his ears and his heart. One day, something amazing happened. His teacher announced a public speaking competition. Everyone in class became excited. The topic was simple: my dream. Sam's heart jumped. My dream? He whispered to himself. He had dreamed about this moment for so long. He wanted to stand on stage and tell the world what he believed. But then he remembered what everyone said. He remembered the laughter, the teasing, the low grades. And for a moment, he almost gave up. Then he looked at his reflection in the cracked mirror. He saw a boy who never stopped trying. He saw a boy who was still standing. And that was enough. "I'll do it," he said aloud. "I may not be perfect, but I will try." That night, Sam started writing his speech. He wrote about dreams. He wrote about courage. And most of all, he wrote about never giving up. He practiced every evening, sometimes in front of his little sister, sometimes in front of the old mirror. He stumbled, he forgot, he mispronounced words, but he never quit. The more he practiced, the stronger his voice became. He began to enjoy it, the rhythm, the sound, the feeling of speaking his truth. He told himself, "This is not just about winning. This is about becoming better than I was yesterday." Finally, the big day arrived. The entire school gathered in the hall. Students whispered, teachers smiled. Sam stood behind the curtain, his hands trembling. He could hear his heart beating so loud it almost drowned the noise of the crowd. He took a deep breath, and then his name was called. "Next speaker, Sam." He walked slowly to the stage. The lights were bright. The hall was silent. For a moment, he forgot everything. Then he looked up and saw his mother in the crowd. She smiled. That one small smile gave him the courage he needed. He took another deep breath and began. "Good morning, everyone," he said softly. "My name is Sam, and I want to talk about dreams." His voice trembled at first, but as he continued, something changed. His fear started to fade. His voice grew stronger. He spoke from his heart, not from the paper in his hand. He talked about how people laughed at him, how he failed many times, but how he kept believing. He said, "Sometimes the world will tell you that you're not good enough. But that's not true. You just haven't shown them who you really are yet." When he finished, the hall stayed silent for a moment. Then, applause. Loud, warm, endless applause. His teacher's eyes were full of tears, and Sam, he just stood there smiling. He didn't win first place that day, but he won something far more powerful: confidence. For the first time in his life, Sam believed in himself completely. He realized that learning, reading, and speaking weren't about being perfect. They were about never giving up. That night he walked home with his mother. The moonlight followed them down the quiet road. His mother looked at him and said softly, "I'm proud of you, Sam." He smiled and replied, "I'm proud of me too, Mom." And for the first time in his entire life, he truly was.
From that day forward, everything changed for Sam. Something inside him had awakened. He wasn't afraid anymore, not of failing, not of speaking, not of dreaming. Every morning, he woke up before sunrise, opened his book, and began to read. The words no longer scared him. They felt like friends now, familiar, warm, alive. He practiced reading aloud to the trees, to the birds, to the wind. He didn't care if no one was listening, because every time he spoke, his confidence grew stronger. Every time he listened, his understanding grew deeper. This was his own way of learning, his personal reading and listening practice. He didn't need expensive lessons or fancy tutors. He just needed his voice, his ears, and his determination. Sometimes the road was still hard. There were days when his energy ran low, days when he didn't feel smart enough or strong enough. But each time he felt like stopping, he remembered the sound of that applause. He remembered the smile on his mother's face, and he remembered what it felt like to believe in himself. So he pushed forward, step by step, page by page, word by word. Months passed, then years. Sam became one of the best students in his school. The same teachers who once doubted him now praised him. The same classmates who once laughed at him now asked him for help. He didn't boast, he didn't show off, he just smiled kindly and helped everyone he could. Because Sam had learned something far greater than grammar or vocabulary. He had learned the power of patience, the power of consistency, the power of never giving up. One afternoon, his teacher asked him to read aloud in front of the class again. It was a long passage, something that once would have terrified him. But Sam took the book, opened it calmly, and began to read. His voice was clear. His pronunciation was strong. Every word flowed like music. When he finished, the room was silent, not from boredom, but from awe. Everyone could see it. Everyone could feel it. This wasn't the same boy they used to know. This was someone transformed by effort, by practice, by belief. Later that afternoon, as he walked home, he found a little boy sitting alone under a tree, crying. Sam stopped and asked gently, "Hey, what's wrong?" The boy said, "I can't read. The words don't make sense. I'll never be good at it." Sam smiled softly. He sat beside him and said, "You know, I used to feel the same way." The boy looked up surprised. "Really?" "Yes," said Sam. "I was the slowest reader in my class. Everyone laughed at me. But I didn't stop. I practiced every day, reading and listening again and again, until I got better." The boy wiped his tears. "Did it really work?" Sam smiled. "Yes, it worked. Because when you never give up, everything becomes possible." He took the boy's small book and began to read it aloud, slowly, gently, clearly. The boy followed along, repeating each word. Together, they read the first page, and when they finished, the boy smiled for the first time. Sam saw himself in that smile, the same spark of hope he once had. And in that moment, he understood something new. It wasn't just about his own dream anymore. It was about helping others believe in theirs. From that day on, Sam began teaching younger students. He helped them learn English through stories, through reading, listening, and imagination. He would tell them, "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be patient. Read a little every day, listen carefully, speak bravely, and never, ever give up." The children loved him. They listened to every word he said, because he spoke not from a book, but from his heart. Years went by and Sam grew into a young man. He finished school, then college. He became an English teacher, the kind of teacher who saw hope in every student, no matter how slow or shy they were. Every time a student said, "Sir, I can't do it," he smiled and replied, "Neither could I at first, but you can if you try." And every night after his classes ended, he'd walk to the same hill where he used to look at the stars. He'd look up again and whisper, "I did it." But then he'd smile and add, "This is only the beginning." Because Sam had learned that real success isn't reaching the top, it's helping others climb with you. Years passed, and Sam's name became known across the town, not because he was famous, but because he was different. He was the teacher who listened, the teacher who believed, the teacher who never gave up on anyone. His students loved his classes. He didn't just teach English. He taught courage, kindness, and hope. He told stories, stories of real people, of dreams, of struggles. And every story ended with the same simple message: keep going. Because that's what life is about, moving forward, even when it hurts. One evening after class, a young student stayed behind. She was nervous, holding her notebook tightly in her hands. "Sir," she said softly, "I failed my test again. I think I'm just not good at English." He smiled gently. He recognized that voice, that fear, because it once belonged to him. He said, "Do you remember what I always say?" She nodded shyly. "Never give up?" He smiled. "That's right. You can fail 100 times, and it still doesn't mean you're done. It just means your story isn't finished yet." He sat beside her and said, "When I was your age, I couldn't even finish reading one page. But I practiced every day, reading, listening, repeating, until I got better. You can too." Her eyes lit up. She smiled for the first time that day, and Sam felt something warm in his heart, the same feeling he had when he first stood on that stage years ago. That moment reminded him why he became a teacher. Not to teach English, but to teach people to believe in themselves. As the sun began to set, Sam walked home slowly through the quiet streets. He could hear the soft sound of children laughing in the distance. The world around him felt peaceful, calm, alive. He looked up at the evening sky, the same sky he had dreamed under as a boy. The stars were shining again, just like before. But this time, he didn't whisper his dream. He whispered his gratitude. "Thank you," he said softly. "Thank you for never letting me give up." He realized something beautiful, that every struggle he faced, every tear, every moment of doubt, had led him exactly where he was meant to be. Life isn't easy. Sometimes you'll fall. Sometimes you'll fail. But every time you rise again, you grow stronger. Maybe you're like Sam. Maybe you're learning English right now. Maybe the words feel difficult, or your accent isn't perfect, or you forget what you just learned. That's okay. Because learning, just like life, takes time. Every word you read, every sentence you listen to, every mistake you make is a step forward. And someday, you'll look back and realize how far you've come. So keep going. Keep reading. Keep listening. Keep believing. And never, ever give up. Because the story of the boy who never gave up is not just about Sam. It's about you. You who are still trying. You who are still learning. You who refuse to quit, even when no one else believes in you. You are writing your own story, word by word, day by day. And one day, you'll stand tall and say, I did it. I never gave up. If this story inspired you, take a moment to smile, because it means you're still dreaming. And if you're still dreaming, you're already halfway there. Like this video if it touched your heart. Share it with someone who needs hope today. And subscribe for more reading and listening practice stories that help you learn English and find your strength along the way. Because every word you learn is one more reason to believe in yourself.